Today on Gamer's Couch,
Dungeon Roll. Hello, Internet.
hello, happy Sunday from rainy Germany. Windy, April, kind of storm.
And because it's that kind of weather outside, it's a good opportunity to
Sit on the couch.
talk a little bit about a smaller game this time, but a very dry game because you will be in a dungeon where it is not raining. Well, technically, I guess there could also be water, but let's be clear, it's no rain.
It's only bottled water.
I hope.
Yeah.
It's like, do you think dragons keep tap water on?
No,
like,
but the hero.
I'm going to eat you, but first, take a look at my
let me
well-stocked bar of...
Let me clean my palate with a sip of water.
Do you want to have soda with that flamed...
Sparkled or normal tap water? Let me think. Now, for reals. Welcome to the channel if you're new. Welcome back if you already know how this goes on the couch on Sundays. Thank you for stopping by. We will talk about gameplay and rules first, going then into what we liked and maybe did not like about the game, and last section of the video is talking about funny stories and experiences that we might have had during playing that game. Now, before you start telling us what Dungeon Roll is like, let me tell you that maybe you already see it at the box. It's kind of worn down a bit. We own this for a while now and finally got the chance to put it on the couch. It's not a brand new game, but yeah. Just wanted to throw that in there. Tell me how it plays.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but tell the people.
Since we've been talking about some fairly heavyweight, well, at least in terms of time commitment games,
yeah.
This is a very short. Well, it obviously depends how many players I have, but it is a rather short game. I think it says 15 to 30 minutes, so it's a perfect filler game. Also because it scales from anything between 1 and 4 players, which makes it great for some in-between quick dice action. So
Dissection?
Dice action. Action.
Action, baby.
It's the Austrian
no.
type of action.
No. Don't go there.
As the name implies, Dungeon Roll is a game about rolling through a dungeon with dice.
End of the game.
That's it.
Oh, boy.
You will select one of these many beautiful heroes to play, and you have some like this mercenary, or the bard, or the adept, and the kobold, and the arcane swordsman, and so on and so on. Fairly fantasy tropey kind of stuff you can do. Coming with that, you have a special ability, so each of these characters is more or less, well, stronger or weaker in one or another regard. What that means makes a bit more sense once we talk about what the dice do. So at the start of a round, it is you versus a dungeon master. That dungeon master can be you if you're playing solo, but typically it's like the player to your left or to your right, whatever you prefer. That player will have one die that keeps track of how far you've advanced into the dungeon, obviously starting at the first level and going all down to level dragon, or better said, the 10th level. And since I've screwed that up last time, let me recount the faces. Yes,
I see that.
10 sides. So yeah. What happens then? The player who goes into the dungeon rolls his
hero dice.
His pool of hero dice, these white ones, and there's a multitude of heroes to go with you, and sometimes it's pure luck which will come with you, and what you will find in the tavern. So by rolling these dice, you're recruiting either warriors or clerics or magicians or thieves or champions who are
That's
like
4.
who can. I'd say that's. I was about to say this is closer to Chaos Knight than Thor, but sure, whatever. Or scrolls. Scrolls are the cheapest kind of companions because they don't eat. No, so these are the guys that can go with you onto the trip and will stay with you on the trip most of the time. While going into the dungeon master rolls the counterpart to this, the dungeon dice. And he rolls 1 die for each level that you are on. So on the first level, it's fairly easy with just 1 dude. And you may encounter a skeleton, the nasty blob,
Slimer,
the goblin. You may find treasure, or some health potion maybe. But you may also maybe find and wake up the dragon, which is kind of not the best thing to do. So as you might already have figured out or assumed from similar games, each hero corresponds with a specific type of monster. That means each hero can essentially beat every monster, but only one of them. However, let's say you have a warrior can kill all the goblins, so all the green dice. The cleric can beat all the skeletons, and the wizard can beat all the blobs. Whatever that is, but it is. And the champion and the thief are kind of a bit special. The thief is, not really good at fighting monsters, but he can open up all the treasure chests that are there. So once you have more than one out, it's a good thing to have a thief in your party to spend them on. And the champion is just that. It's a badass who is good at killing everything. So the champion is actually able to remove all dice of one type if you spend him on that. So that means all goblins, all chests, or whatever. And the scroll is, somehow useless in terms of doing stuff with the dice that are out, but then again, not as much. You can spend a scroll to re-roll as many dice as you want. And that includes also the dungeon dice. So if you're not particularly happy with what you're facing, roll them again. Maybe that goblin turns into a dragon, or more hopefully into a chest. The last thing on the dungeon die we haven't talked about yet are those health potions. You may spend any of your adventurers, or even a scroll, and that's where scrolls are really useful, to consume as many of these potions as you may have or are out. So let's assume you're on level 5 of the dungeon. You're facing 2 goblins and also found 3 of those health potions. First you have to fight the goblins by, let's say, spending a warrior to fight them all. Then you spend any other die you have in your group to consume all of those 3 potions, which allow you to take 3 of your previously used dice back from the graveyard into your hand, and as a plus, flip them on any side up that you prefer. Kind of, it's a bit weird necromancy, I guess, these potions. It says healing potion, but suddenly you turn a warrior into a cleric or a champion. So maybe not that. It seems kind of odd.
It's a healing potion with steroids. So.
Yes. Now and this is certainly the last thing for the dungeon die, the dragon symbol. So whenever you roll a dragon icon, that die immediately gets moved out into its own area called the dragon horde. Is it horde? Mm-hmm. I think so. It's horde, yeah. Whenever 3 or more of these are in the horde at any time, after you've bet the monsters and open chests and drink the potions, you have to face the dragon. Beating the dragon is not super difficult. Well, it is kind of, again. You have to spend 3 adventurers And to make things more complicated, those 3 have to be different. So you can spend any combination, a warrior, a priest, and a wizard, or a warrior, a priest, and a champion, but they have to be different. Which makes it quite difficult, or prevents you also from going in there saying, I'm rolling just champions because they're super awesome at beating everything. Well, unless you face the dragon, then you might find yourself in an, ugly situation. Good news, however, is if you beat the dragon, you can grab some of his treasures. And that is where the game box comes in as an additional prop, because you will find treasure in here. Spoiler, there's no treasure in here right now because it's in front of us. Treasure are these little icons that you can draw out, and there's actually a multitude of different possibilities that you can have, and while I'm picking all those up, putting them in my hand to show a blurry version of that to you into the camera, there is
all the rainbow colors and more.
The ham is not complying to my... Alright, so these are all...
You forgot one. Forgot the scroll.
Nobody needs a scroll.
No, you do if you play a certain character.
So these are all the possible gear icon stuff that you can grab out of them. Some of them are, again, quite easy because they essentially are just tokens that you can use instead of your hero dice. So you have the gray one that counts as a priest, the green one that counts as a warrior, and a mage, and a thief, and so on. Now, you keep those in front of you, and you may spend them in the dungeon whenever you want to. So if you have a stock of guaranteed wizards or clerics or whatever you need in front of you, you can keep them to spend them later on to get out of a nasty situation, or even beat a dragon if you need some more variety in your team, or already spend all your hero dice on something else. Or you might just keep them because they will be worth victory points at the end of the game. Each of those treasure icons is worth something which will give you more points, and that will count, will be the important part to determine if you are winning this game or not. However, there's also some special items. Well, let's get the other two out of the gate first. There's the scroll again, and a potion behaving the same way as the other versions, the die versions of that. And now we get to the special things. You may find a very familiar looking ring that is able to turn you invisible to ignore the dragon. So what this does is it just discards all the dice in the dragon horde, and you don't have to face the dragon. Unfortunately, you won't get experience doing that, and you won't be able to grab treasure from the horde. Then there's the other effect, Dragon Ham. Ham is like kind of one of the coolest things in this. If you play this, it will force a dragon to come out by turning all the minion dice, so like all goblins, into dragon dice, and A, ridding you of all those pesky little critters, and B, allowing you to fight a dragon. That can be advantages for a multitude of reasons, because maybe you have 3 different guys in front of you and you don't want to spend 3 of your heroes to do that. Spend 1 ham and turn all of them into 1 dragon. Now you still have to spend 3 dice to fight the dragon, but at least you're getting a treasure back and you're getting XP for that. Then there's this 2 XP town portal kind of thing. The special ability about this is if you ever played a game called Diablo on the PC, it allows you to go back to town while in dungeon, something you're usually not allowed to do. I'll get into the phases of a turn soon enough, but you might imagine that while you're fighting goblins, you're not allowed to call it a day and then go back to the tavern. And last but not least, there's dragon scales, and these are just worth points in pairs of 2, so you want more than 1 scale, and while a scale is worth at least some points for each pair, you will get additional points. Now, as I already said, the different phases. Number one is you form a team, then you go into the dungeon and the dungeon master starts rolling dice. While in the dungeon, there's also the same kind of thing going on. At first, if you started on floor one die is rolled, you beat that die, and after you beat every die, and there's no dragon in there, then you get to decide, do you want to push forward into the next dungeon or do you want to go home? You can go home right after the first level, but that's not very glorious. Also, you gain as many experience points as the level that you are in when you're going out or back into the tavern. That is important because for each point of XP, not only does that count until the score at the end, but it levels up your character, giving you access to more powerful abilities that allow you to go further into the dungeon, which is quite neat. And these are also different for each character, so don't expect the same thing to show up each time. Now, if you are in the dungeon, as I said, you can't just go back to the tavern, except you have a town portal in hand. Also, if there is a dragon, you have to fight the dragon and beat the dragon first before going back. Now, if you have to leave the dungeon because you don't have enough dice to either beat the monsters or the dragon, well, the penalty is you won't get any XP going back. Tough luck. But you don't lose anything else, so you don't lose equipment or you don't get de-leveled in your character. Then again, it's a push your luck game, so all the other players will try to consider, well, am I able to do just one more level? And there's some interesting choices there. You pushing on the first level so far that you may flip your hero to the advanced side and then have a way better luck at going in there. There's also some heroes that feel more powerful on the basic side, so maybe you want to go to 4 on the first one so that the hero does not turn to the advanced side and then come back later. Regardless of what your plan is, you typically play 3 rounds, so you go to the dungeon 3 times, and afterwards you count all your treasures and your XP points, and then determine who wins the game.
Ta-da!
That's it.
Voila.
Now it's your turn to talk.
All right. So, as I already mentioned, this game was acquired, I think it was 2013 that we got it, right? We bought that, 2013. And it's been on the table quite a bit, so we played it quite a lot, actually. It's one of the dinner games, I have to say. So it's simple to play, quick to play, which is a good thing if you just want to wind down after dinner before you go do whatever. Now, I really, really like dice game anyways, as I already mentioned in one of the last vlogs. But I also really, or especially, I really like this one. Now, there's just... this game plays into my ability to roll dice well only under certain circumstances, which we're going to cover in the experiences part, but that really, it really makes me enjoy the game. It's quite simple, and you have fun with it, and you try out every character that comes with the game, and I think the expansions are already out with the new characters, are they coming out?
There's an expansion. There was an expansion, I think, announced for Essen last year. And I think they said that it didn't make it to the fair. I'm not sure if it's out already.
See, I didn't check. But anyways, at one point you're through all the characters, and that will be quite quickly since the game plays so fast that you probably play more than 1 round a night. at one point you have your favorite characters and you play only those. That's at least what we do, and that kind of decreases the experience of different kind of games. And in terms of replayability, you have a certain expectation maybe when you get that game on the table, which is fine. I'm not saying that's not fine, but it's with other games there's more different replayability, and that's not here. But I kind of like it.
I'd say this has a very high amount of replayability. You're
not with
free,
the same character.
You're free to either distribute characters by chance, by just handing them out and shuffling them up, or having people draft.
We never did that.
We did at the beginning when we
but when we played them all, we took our favorite more often than just drafting or.
We usually handed out 2 characters, and you could choose one of them.
Yeah.
So it's entirely up to you.
So it's quite likely that I get my favorite character. Anyways, I really, really like the game. You can listen to podcasts while you play it. So though you have a lot of interaction, just because one person
let's test this.
Not everybody plays on a wooden desk with no cover there. Anyways, what was it? Oh yeah, though you have a lot of interaction on the table with your opponent, just because he's your dungeon master, you don't really have to talk a lot. You can curse a lot, which happens frequently in this table, especially when I'm the dungeon master, but again, later in the experiences. But you don't have to talk a lot otherwise, other than what the fuck did you roll there, you know? So you can definitely listen to a podcast, which is in the realms of the dinner games, there's more games that we do have that we can't listen to something on the side. So this has a very special place in my heart for being a dice game that we can listen to podcast to while we enjoy playing a few rounds. Now, going to the quality and components of things like that, I really, really like the components. The dice are very well done. There's no offset print. I like the colors. I like the touch, the size of the dice. So they're nice and heavy. They roll well. So that's something that I really like. I also like the artwork on the cards, by the way. And the text is printed in a nice font that enables you to read stuff on cards. So that's just very, very lovely. I like the color scheme, like it being very it reminds me a lot of the classic RPGs of Dungeons and Dragons, or I also am reminded of anything Hobbit or Lord of the Rings here, just from the color sets. So that's lovely. I mean, go figure. And what I'm very, very happy about especially are those
Hands.
Tiny hands. Oh, hungry lunch. Now, the quality of those cardboard pieces, because that's usually where things get either flimsy or just weird, but they are very well done. The print, the quality is very good. They have kind of a I don't know, a varnishy kind of thing on top. It's not really plastic, but
which is also important if you consider that these get shuffled in all the time.
And we played this game a lot, and still they look very, very good. Also, one other thing that I like a lot is that it's not only a dinner game, it's a travel game. You can easily have that in your bag when you go someplace. I don't know, we even played it in a bar, so that's fine. You can take it on vacation. You can't really play it in the car or only so much on a plane. But if you travel by train somewhere and you have somebody with you that enjoys gaming a bit, sure, take it with you in your handbag. I mean, it's the perfect size and weight to take it with you on travels.
I'd almost say that you could even play that on the backseat of a car. Maybe not on the seat itself, but if you have something like a tray where you can
that's it.
Roll the dice.
Yeah.
And I have to agree. This is there's some games that have something special about the dice that they that come with them. I don't know how to describe that, but they almost feel like they were made of metal or have a core made out of metal, because they are almost always cool to the touch, and they are quite heavy. Apart from that,
they cool
have
for a
very
time.
clear iconography,
Blah.
icons on there that are easy to read, and those have not faded at all. If you tuned into our Dice Master discussion, so some of those dice already kind of look like they're losing color or never had some when they shipped out. All of these here are pretty good. It's and the white dice are the same, so they also have very heavy feel to them.
Yeah.
The thing about the characters, while the artwork is nice, there's no fluff at all to this. So don't.
It's in the book, right?
I think there's some.
Let me see. Yeah, the fluff is, there's a tiny booklet coming with the game where it's pretty much the fluff text book.
Yeah. But it's...
Which is cool,
just
because you don't have to have that on.
Just to be clear, fluff on this game is even thinner than in Lords of Waterdeep. And that
Do
is...
you miss it?
No, not at all. I'm just
asking.
If someone's coming in with the expectation this has some a lot of fantasy, fluffy kind of thing, it doesn't. But it does not need to. It's very much about mechanics. It's about taxing your chances. Do you want to do that one more roll? Do you want to go out and be called a wuss until the rest of the evening because you
or longer
did not take any chances, and so on? Or do you want to now spend your precious little tokens there, or do you want to keep them because you might depend on them for winning the game at the end? And obviously this is very luck based, so don't be mad if you lose one dungeon roll kind of turn, or even if you have to play this multiple times across an evening, and even then it's for me, this is the perfect filler game. It says 1 to 4 players. I think we at some point we even played it with 5. Yes, you run into a component limitation, but the real resource that limits this from having more players is time, because the downtime for all the other players gets obviously bigger and bigger the more players you have at the table. That being said, a 4-player game is that's where it peaks out. Actually, I would say a 3-player game might be the sweet spot for this one, at least to my taste.
We had most fun with the 3 players.
Yeah,
it's fine with the 2 of us because we can just work around some stuff. But
you always do something in a 2-player game. It's very much like, I'd say, like Quicks in that regard, or like Doodle City.
Yeah.
In a 3-player game, there's only one turn every 3 games where you don't do something, and that's not too bad because you can heckle the other 2 people playing, and
exactly
that's fine. And in a 4-player, it's not too bad either. But I'd say the optimal sweet spot would be 3 players. Going forward with that. And the 15 to 30 minutes time frame absolutely fits. You get real fast with this.
Yeah.
The interesting thing I noticed for myself is that I get started to noticing patterns of things that you want to try to get or want to push for, depending on the character you have. So there is some very light tactical thinking in there, but it is obviously moment to moment based on what dice you have at the table, how good the roll was you had initially, but also depending on how good you are at drawing stuff out of this box. The If I had a complaint, the only one I have is that from a gameplay perspective, if you don't manage to level up your character on the first or maybe at least
latest the second,
you don't
you're
really
done.
have to play the third
No.
because you're not going to win.
Or only if your basic character side is way stronger than the leveled up one. But I think it was only one character in there where we weren't keen on leveling it up like right away the first round because the side was so strong.
And I haven't talked about this in the rules section. We kind of already what do you think section. But just to give you an idea what these special abilities are. For example, the bard says you may use thieves as wizards and wizards as thieves. So there's almost always a permanent special ability on here that allows you to use dice in another fashion, and most of these are like use these as this or those as that. But you also have an ultimate ability that you may use once per dungeon. Once per turn you may tap the card and then perform something.
Exhaust. This is not wizard.
For example, the bard has the ultimate of you may tame the wild beast with music, remove all dice from the dragon's den, which is almost the same as the the ring with the unspeakable words on them. Then if you have 5 experience points, you may turn him on his awesome side. Here again, the special is the same, so thieves and wizards may be used interchangeably, but in addition to that, champions also defeat an additional monster, which is actually, if you consider that, pretty huge, meaning that you may eradicate an entire set of monsters of one class plus an additional one, which is something that really screws you over at the beginning. It's very easy to advance as long as the monsters you face are very samey and you only have to spend 1 die. The worst thing that can happen to you in the first 3 turns is that you have monster A at 1 turn, then AB on turn 2, and then ABC on turn 3, because that inevitably means that you spend 6 dice fighting them unless you have something like this that makes things easier. And his ultimate is the same in this part. And just to give you another example, let's talk about the mercenary. The mercenary says if you recruit your heroes, so if you roll those white dice the first time, you may re-roll any of them to see if you can get a better result for that. Also, his ultimate is to defeat 2 monsters, so it's almost like he has 2 extra dice, 2 extra not champions, but 2 extra dice on there, which is pretty good. Then if you level him up, his special now changes in that his warriors defeat 1 additional monsters of any kind, again very similar to the champion thing, but for warriors, which is pretty good. And his ultimate here is you may roll any type of your hero and or dungeon dice again. Now you may argue, well, is this better or worse? Sometimes I prefer the defeat 2 monsters guaranteed over the roll dice again. Nobody likes the scroll, but there you have it.
Oh, depending, there's a character that can really use the scrolls as a character once he fights, so I'm fine that with rolling scrolls then.
The one of the really powerful ones, at least we found, is the knight, and the knight has something like his special is whenever you roll for your heroes, you turn all scrolls into champions, which is already ridiculous. And his ultimate is turn all monsters into dragon heads and put them into the dragon bin. So he has the meat, the dragon meat, as his ultimate on the basic side. Which, don't underestimate this. This is one of the most powerful things to get rid of really annoying combinations of monsters that you don't have heroes for. So that is like at least to me, that feels like the glass cannon in the dungeon to get rid of creeps and turn them into a dragon and get experience points for them. Yeah. While on his other side, he's called a dragon hunter, and his
Dragon
special
Slayer, not hunter.
Oh, Dragon Slayer, yeah. And his special is again the same, that your scrolls turn to champions, but also, and here's where it's getting even more ridiculous, he only needs 2 dice to defeat a dragon instead of 3, which is really powerful. And again, Dragon Ham on the special side. There's a whole, almost one character for each combination of, you may use Thief as Blank, or Blank as Thief, or Warrior as Wizard, Wizard as Warrior. Those are the most common kind of special abilities, and the ones we just told you about are more the outliers. And when you talked about picking favorite characters, it's typically those outlier characters that are better on that. I'd recommend, if you play this, especially the first times, try to hand every player 2 of these and let them pick one. If I saw that there are promo characters out there, obviously an expansion would bring more characters, and I think that is something the game will benefit from. Not making it necessarily better, but varied over time.
Yeah.
This is one of our Yahtzee style games with a dragon bite. So
you wanna rate before you can curse about?
I'm raiding this chest right now.
Not raid, rate the game, so that you then can curse about my dungeon master abilities. My rating on my scale of 1 to awesome, it's awesome. Ta-da! It's a solid 10 in the dinner game realms of games on our shelf / in the boxes down there. I really like it. I even prefer it to other dinner games that are also very high on my list, but it's one of my favorite dinner games. Ta-da. How about you?
It's Dragon out of 10.
Yeah.
There's one more thing I want to say about this that I
first time
that I like. What first time?
That you explain something about your rating.
What I wrote that it's as random as everything else.
Yeah, but you said, but you want to add something. That's where I started giggling. It's like usually
I want to point out one thing I like about Dungeon Roll, not necessarily over, but for what makes this special in comparison to Quicks or Doodle City. Even though you are not really competing, well, you're not fighting directly you're not interacting directly with another player, but just for the part that the other player is rolling your dungeon dice, that feels way more, that builds up more tension than Doodle City or Quicks could do. It's the same thing almost in those other games where someone else rolls dice and you have to work with them. Same as here, but here it feels like someone is out to get you and rolling spectacularly shitty.
Well, that's actually my special ability, and that's how we segue into experiences and funny stories. Can I untap now?
Oh no,
I'm not exhausted. So I'm very used to him being mad at me whenever I roll dice for him, or for even in co-op games like Mice and Mystic.
Especially in co-op games.
When I roll the dice for the enemies and I happen to roll well that time, it happens frequently and he's mad with me.
Sarah is the reason why I thought that 12-sided die is actually an 8-sided die, because she rolled the stupid 2 twice in a row.
Yeah, and I excel at rolling dice for enemies. Well, like with Mice and Mystic, we talked about that in a couple of vlogs already. However, my ability to roll dice well for the enemy is extra good in this game. Now, when I'm your dungeon master, you really don't want to play this game with me, and I don't do it on purpose. I really try to not be as shitty as I am in the end, but I mean, I don't want to make it too easy for you either, but I'm not trying to make it as hard as it can be, but so frequently I roll just the dungeon dice and my opponent is pretty much ready to rage flip the table. And we had that multiple times, just the two of us playing, but then we played it with G for the first time and I was his dungeon master. And he was cursing just usual, and then at the end of the game he asked G, well, did you like the game? And he said, yeah, would you play it again? Yeah, but not if she's my dungeon master. I refuse.
And you might
every
be
time.
You might be familiar with that friend in your gaming group that is usually exceptionally lucky when it comes to die rolls, and
what can I do?
Always gets out of the way when you're trying to hit them with laser fire or anything else. That's G. So this is like, in this game, Sarah is the anti-G.
That's a nice word.
It's...
I'm the anti-G.
So
okay.
if those two play dungeon roll too much, things explode, detonate.
Yeah, the universe
whatever. There's a singularity happening in our living room where it ends up me punching both of them for one being too good and the other one being too bad at whatever you want to do.
No, you don't punch us. You yell at us and you say, enough children, go into your room. Things like that. But it's really weird. I mean, I'm really sorry for all the people that I do the dungeon master for, because I know what's likely to come up. I want them to really fight, but if you have, like, in level, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, level 7, I'm rolling all the dice, and you have, each die has another face on top.
And you're cheating, because they only have 6 faces.
Yeah, right. let's say one is out for the dragon, but
that happens,
magic. Now, like one of the dice is out with a dragon already, maybe, and I'm rolling all the remaining dice, and every one of them is showing some other face, and you already spend so many heroes to, get there, and then I'm crushing you like that. That's really horrible, and that's what I don't mean to do.
Terrible.
It's
terrible.
It's no, not really.
You can see. I'm so sorry.
I don't know. Not true. I don't always win per se. I mean, I'm not bad at this game, but me being so good at being the dungeon master doesn't mean that I win the game. That's not true. You somehow. The third player wins, which, Anyways, it's just a running gag that, we can play this game, but I'm not gonna sit on her right side. She's not gonna be my dungeon master. Sorry. That's just life, I guess. Oh, but one of the first games, I just remembered that just the two of us were playing, and we were thinking about, how could you get to 10 rounds in the dungeon? That's mathematically really difficult. You have to roll really, really well, and then you get the dragon and you're pretty much out of a job, you have to retire. And he got to level 10 with heroes still being there to spend. It was amazing. So that was the only time, I think, that we ever had a hero that had to retire afterwards.
Yeah, that's so. If you get to the maximum level, you are forced to retire with.
You gotta go to the tavern, spend the loot,
or your 10 experience points that are getting out of that. But yeah, This is. At some point, this becomes less about luck at rolling dice. That's certainly an important component. But it also is about what do you pull out of the treasure chest? What do you still have in stock? And if you're well prepared, you're going into a dungeon and could technically make it through half of the dungeon just with the resources that you have in front of you, and go through with that. And then again, it's the question: do you want to keep those resources or do you want to spend them? For example, the town portals are worth 2 points. The scales are worth even more if you have more than one.
Yeah.
So, it can happen that it gets tactical. And while we give each other a crap for rolling terrible as the dungeon master, it's not so bad. And as I said, for a short game.
Yeah, really like it.
Let's try to keep this short as well.
So we wrap up. And say thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, any comments, leave them down in the comment section below. And we
also
would...
corrections. Sometimes we leave them.
Sometimes he's just wrong.
Never. The manual has to be rewritten. Dice have to be recast because what I say forms with the reality of the game.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. You have in your coffee this morning?
I don't know. The delusion beans. Maybe.
The delusion beans. Oh, great. Awesome. That's going to be a good day. Anyways, we would nonetheless really, really appreciate if you liked or shared this video because it helps a lot. And if you haven't already, why not subscribe to the channel? There's lots of art videos, cooking videos, and board game videos with videos with this special one here.
Sometimes we pretend to like each other.
Yeah, but only on Tuesdays. Only on Tuesdays, actually. And today is not Tuesday.
Yeah, I was about to say, we never record a video on Tuesday.
Oh.
Screw you. Bye.
Bye. Have a very good one. Enjoy. Take care.